Don't drive through it, folks. So a House committee could decide minutes from now whether or not the Republican-backed lawsuit against the president will continue. Republicans formally laying the groundwork in front of the House Rules Committee nearly a week after Speaker Boehner announced that he plans to sue the president over executive overreach. Oklahoma Congressman Tom Cole is on the Rules Committee, and he is my guest now from Capitol Hill. And, sir, good morning and welcome back.
Thank you, Bill. Good to see you.
Make your case. Why are you doing this?
Well, we think there's been a consistent pattern of overreach by the president. The obvious example, of course, is Obamacare, where he's unilaterally changed the law over 20 times. There's other instances as well, unilaterally changing the immigration law, which we think has contributed to the crisis we have at the border right now. So we think the appropriate venue is to go to the courts and see whether or not we're correct. It's not personal. It's just we have a very strong disagreement with the president about the appropriate role of the executive.
If you are correct, what do you think should happen then?
Well, I think the president's orders should be nullified, and he should come back to Congress and request changes. For instance, he's twice changed the business mandate or postponed it in Obamacare. That's something, by the way, we agree with, but we also wanted it to be changed for individuals. He simply didn't want to do that, so he took it upon himself to act in what we think is a manner that's unconstitutional. But again, that's what we have courts for. We'll make our case, he'll make his case, we'll get a decision, we'll know where we stand.
Are you of the mind that impeachment is the way to go?
No, I'm not. I actually think that would, number one, be constitutionally incorrect. I don't think we're talking about high crimes and misdemeanors here. And number two, it's politically, frankly, foolish. There's never been a senator from any party that's voted to impeach a president of his own party. You'd have to have 22 Democrats agree with the 45 Republicans in the Senate to get there. So I don't think that's an achievable goal. And this, on the other hand, is a pretty routine measure. We saw the Supreme Court recently rule 9-0 that the president was indeed wrong when he unilaterally said the Senate wasn't in recess when in fact it was. So again, we'll see what the courts have to say, but we think we're picking the appropriate venue.
Yeah, on the word impeachment, though, I mean, you have to have a willing Congress. You're exactly right about that. You have to have a willing Congress to go forward. Dick Cheney called that a distraction last night. Do you agree with him?
I actually do. I think, again, when you pursue something that you know is going to fail in the end, even if you had got the votes in the House to charge the president, you need a two-thirds vote in the Senate where we don't even have a majority. And again, only twice in American history has a president actually gone on trial in the Senate, and there's never been a senator who's ever voted to impeach a member of his own party. So I think you'd have to recognize it would have to be extraordinarily egregious and something that united the two parties. And in this case, that's simply, that's not where the president's at. And I think people that call for that, frankly, haven't thought through what the consequences of their actions are.
So let's get back to the case at hand now. Obamacare was changed how many times? 35, I think, was the last count according to the Wall Street Journal?
Multiple times, certainly. I mean, some people say as few as 24, as many as 35, but quite a few. And, look, the president will make his case. This is normal executive, ability to respond or discretion. We don't think it is. We think when you actually read things in the law that aren't there, or you reverse things that are written in statute, we need clarification. I don't think that's the way the founders intended our constitutional system to work. Frankly, we've had too much power flow out of the executive or out of the legislative branch to the executive. Presidents of both parties. So let's begin to resolve some of these disputes. We saw the Senate do that in terms of their recess. We think this is another appropriate topic for the courts to look at.
Yeah, on that Senate matter, you won that battle essentially on behalf of the justices. What about the Bo Bergdahl swap? According to law, apparently it was a 30-day notice, and the White House said, hey, we could not have done that, otherwise we would have jeopardized the mission. Is that a part of this?
Well, it's not a part of the case per se. We think it is part of the action. The law was very specific on that. I think even Democratic members were pretty upset. On the other hand, I will tell you, in defense of the president, he is commander-in-chief and he has broad discretion in that area. This is a different matter. We're talking about a law that was written and passed by Congress that he's unilaterally changing. I think he's actually in a much weaker position constitutionally here. But again, I would have disagreed with the Bergdahl action for both policy and procedural reasons.
House Democrats say it's a political gimmick.
It's really not.
What do you say to that?
Frankly, I think it's something that members of both parties ought to be interested in, because we've seen under presidents of both parties an expansion of executive power that I think is well beyond what any of the founders ever intended. So, you know, at different points, Democrats have actually made the same arguments about Republican presidents that we're making now. Let's get this thing settled once and for all and see if we can make the boundaries a little bit more definitive.
To summarize, then, you would declare victory if you get the courts to reverse some of these decisions. That's what I hear you saying.
That's correct.
We'll see whether or not you are victorious. Tom Cole, thank you for your time. We'll watch the hearing as it gets underway 40 minutes from now. Thanks. Martha.